Thanks very much, Ariana, and good afternoon. So great to be back with AOBA again. In 26 years now with AOBA, I've written and given scores of speeches, testimonies, position statements. The most joyous of those, without doubt, was at this podium this time last year when you honored me with the 2016 Sidney Glassman Award. Thank you again for that. I'll forever cherish it. The next most joyous of all of that speechifying may well be my role today, introducing you to the 2017 Sidney Glassman Memorial Award winner, Harald Mangold. Most of the speeches and testimonies I've given in the past were intended as forceful persuasion pieces aimed at trying to convince a city or a county council or board or General Assembly not to pass yet another piece of legislation that was going to make your jobs harder to do and usually more costly. Today, however, no need to call on persuasion. As you know, the award annually recognizes career contributions to the property management industry on a senior level in one or more of the areas of education, training, management, administration, and legislation. The Sidney Glassman Memorial Award Selection Committee certainly didn't need any persuasion as it quickly closed ranks behind the nomination of Harald Mangold. Rather, I get to tell you some things about Harald, including, hopefully, a thing or two that you didn't know. For instance, how did Harald happen to come to the Washington, D.C. area and eventually become president of Scott Management, a half-century-old, full-service property management firm with a garden and high-rise portfolio of over 4,300 apartment homes? Well, probably not the way you might think. Harald comes from a three-generation family of bakers in his native Austria. And as a young man, he dutifully followed the family path and studied to become a baker. At 20 years old, he had completed what was essentially a bachelor's degree in that profession. And not long after, he saw an ad in his local newspaper from a Northern Virginia bakery seeking an authentic Austrian pastry chef. And our guy applied for the job and got it. So he got a one-year visa, and on New Year's Day, 1986, he boarded a plane for Washington with, he told me, a serious hangover in full swing from the night before. 20 years old. A year later, his visa up, Harald returned to Austria. But he'd gotten the America bug, and eventually he would return to Alexandria, where he began his career in property management with Scott. Starting, he says, pretty much at the bottom, doing turnover inspections. Steadily, he climbed the ladder, working at several properties in various positions, including a year with the corporate engineer, where he learned about everything from HVAC to roofs to asphalt. From there, it was regional manager, then director of operations, EVP, and since 2004, president. So a unique start, followed by the classic path to leadership in our industry. Early in my time at AOBA, one of my mentors on real housing matters was a delightful man named Irving Creeksville. By the time I had the good fortune to know Irving, he was a longtime AOBA board member, past president, a Sidney Glassman Memorial Award winner, and had been the chairman or active member of a million AOBA committees and or mayorally appointed committees and work groups. And when you would ask Irving about his extensive service to AOBA, he would just chuckle and say, well, AOBA believes in letting no good deed go unpunished. So in that same spirit, AOBA has been meting out similar punishment to Harald Mangold pretty much since the beginning of his career in property management. And he's taken it unfailingly. He's been a reliable contributing member to AOBA's Maryland Legislative and Regulatory Issues Committee. If we gave a perfect attendance award over 2 decades plus, he would be the winner. And he didn't just show up. He had read the pieces of legislation to be discussed, thought about their impact on his business, and provided the input that was needed, actively helping shape AOBA's positions on those pieces of legislation. But as many of you know, our needs don't end there. Your government affairs teams works hard to earn the respect of elected officials and agency heads, but those folks would invariably rather hear from the members themselves. And even though he told me recently that this was not his favorite thing to do, Harald has invariably answered that call as well, volunteering countless times as an AOBA witness before the Maryland General Assembly, the Prince George's County Council, and elsewhere. He's been so responsive that a couple of years ago he was punished by being made chairman of the Maryland Legislative. Does the punishment stop there? This is AOBA. Not a chance. So Harald is just as much a fixture of the Virginia Legislative and Regulatory Issues Committee. And let me just share with you one example of how he's helped us there. 3 years ago, Fairfax County Planning Commission, you know, planners are the world's foremost authorities on everything. They were considering adopting a consultant's recommendations for building electric vehicle charging infrastructure, particularly in the redevelopment of the Tyson's Urban District. The recommendations were for 35% of all new commercial parking spaces to be fitted with transformers, switches, and conduit to accommodate electric vehicle charging. The same recommendation was made for 100% of new parking spaces at apartment communities, countywide. We put the call out to the membership for assistance, anything they could offer. Harald responded immediately. Brian Gordon and I knew that he drove a vintage 911 Porsche that he dearly loved. But what did he know about electric vehicles? Well, turns out a lot. His other car is a Chevy Volt. And Harald, a committed environmentalist, had clearly done a deep dive research-wise about the merits of electric vehicles, the future demand for them, and the challenges they would face, including infrastructure. So Harald took off his hip sports car hat, put on his geeky nerd hat, and armed Brian with all kinds of information to show that requiring 100% of spaces in new apartment communities to be EVC equipped was ridiculously excessive and costly. Throughout the Planning Commission's lengthy review, AOBA, through Brian, was able to provide input, data, economic case studies, citing substantially less demand for EV charging than what the consultant had proposed. Consequently, planning staff recommended vastly reduced proposed requirements on developers, specifically that new spaces need only be EV ready rather than fully equipped, and that they would only require that of 2% of commercial parking spaces and 5% of spaces in new common residential facilities. Pretty good outcome, thanks to Harald. Harald has also consistently answered the call when it comes to utility matters. He's been a dedicated advocate for AOBA, testifying frequently on utility bills, serving for 18 months on the Washington Gas Interruptible Working Group, where his feedback was vital to its success. Help with the AOBA Alliance? Sure, does that too. He's provided references to current prospective customers, and he keeps Fran Francis informed of any changes that he sees in the energy marketplace. All those good works earned him some additional punishment. Appointment to the AOBA Board of Directors. A significant responsibility which, in typical fashion, he emphatically embraced. I remember fondly, as part of his board service, Harald became AOBA Treasurer. I can't tell you how pleased and amused I was to find that we had a treasurer whose financial reports could be longer and more detailed than my notorious government affairs reports. But that, of course, was because Harald was watching every one of your dues dollars like a hawk. Somehow or other, while keeping his company successful and assisting your industry, through his many contributions to AOBA. Harald also finds time to have fun. Coming from Austria, he's an avid skier. He's been a sailor since the age of 14, learning the ropes on Europe's largest lake. He sails his own 38-foot boat competitively in Annapolis with considerable success. And he's a runner. He finished 121st, actually, I think, in his last 10K over the Bay Bridge. Not impressed? That was out of over 20,000 contestants. So you do the math, it's pretty impressive. I'd like to close by sharing with you a bit of a letter written by our dear friend Gary Campbell, of Grade Management, to the Sidney Glassman Memorial Awards Selection Committee, nominating Harald Mangold. We at AOBA have come to love Gary for many things over the years, including his precision and eloquence when he has a point he really wants to get across. If you've ever been in an AOBA board meeting or one of those quarterly meetings with Ike Leggett or Shaun Baker, you know what I mean. Quote, Harald and his team at Scott Management take community service seriously. He's been a leader in helping many charitable causes, supporting with his funds and his presence such programs as AOBA's scholarship program at Prince George's County Community College, the county's public safety Christmas basket program, and AOBA's food drive to benefit the Capital Area Food Bank. Harald embodies the characteristics of the consummate AOBA member, giving not only of his time and financial resources, but also sharing his wisdom and practical expertise. He meets and exceeds the criteria for the distinguished Sidney Glassman Memorial Award. As a friend and industry colleague, I'm proud to submit Harald's name as a nominee for this reward. Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to your 2017 Harald Glassman, Sidney Glassman Memorial Award.